Hello and welcome to The Top Story, a podcast with the headlines of the day from our correspondents around the world. I'm Ne Zha. Coming up in this edition, US President Donald Trump has agreed to exempt automobiles from newly imposed tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico for 1 month. Chinese animated film Ne Zha 2 hits cinemas in Singapore after smashing multiple box office records. And artificial intelligence and robotics take center stage at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. We begin in North America. The World Trade Organization says Canada has submitted a request for dispute consultations to address new U.S. tariffs on goods originating from Canada. The Mexican government said it could shift trade alliances if necessary. The White House said President Donald Trump is granting a 1-month exemption to 3 major automakers from the newly imposed 25% tariffs on Mexico and Canada. Dan Williams has more.
Once it emerged that there would be a phone call between the US President Donald Trump and Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, hopes were raised perhaps of a breakthrough, perhaps of yet another pause, as was the case a month ago when these tariffs were first due to be implemented. But that largely doesn't seem to be the case. Certainly there will be, we understand, a carve-out for the auto industry, a 1-month pause for tariffs around the auto industry. Of course, the auto industry very much intertwined in North America with very complicated supply chains. And there would have been, certainly there were fears that if these tariffs were implemented and as time had gone on, that there would have been perhaps a breakdown in factories across both sides of the border. But as it stands, the rest of the tariffs, well, they remain in place, and they were confirmed by Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary.
The call ended in a somewhat friendly manner, as the president said, but he's not going to stop standing up for the American people. And to answer your question directly when it comes to fentanyl, for the last 4 years, unfortunately, our neighbors to the north and the south, Canada and Mexico, respectively, have allowed America to be a dumping ground, not just for illegal aliens, but for illegal, poisonous, deadly fentanyl, which is now the #1 killer of young people in this country aged 18 to 34.
So border security concerns remain the key issue, according to the White House. And of course, these are all claims that Canada denies. They say that less than 1% of illegal migrants and illegal drugs cross the US-Canada border into the United States, and say that they believe that there are other elements for the reasons for these tariffs being implemented. Canada's also, it has to be said, they say that they've spent some $1.3 billion in strengthening the border as well. So as it stands, these tariffs, well, they remain in place. 25% on most Canadian goods coming into the US, as well as 10% tariffs on energy products. And of course, there's also now these retaliatory tariffs from Canada as well. And most economists seemingly believe that these tariffs, especially for Canada, will be devastating for the economy here.
That was Dan Williams reporting. In his first address to a joint session of Congress since his return to power, US President Donald Trump focused on the economy, emphasizing trade, tariffs, and a promise to ease the burden on working families amid high inflation. Yet, even with full Republican backing, some constituents outside Washington remain wary of tariffs, as Owen Fairclough reports.
A rapturous reception for Donald Trump as he laid out his agenda before a Congress controlled by his Republicans.
Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer.
Marking a presidency that is upending just about every alliance and partnership, including with America's top 3 trading partners, Mexico, Canada and China, all of them hit with tariffs.
But if those Republican lawmakers are cheering on Capitol Hill, they also have to answer to constituents far away from Washington, D.C., some of whom are not sharing the exuberance.
Long before Trump's address, farmers were counting their losses from avian flu ravaging poultry stocks across the US.
The eggs are like gold right now.
Followed by uncertainty over Trump's freezing of federal loans and grants farmers used to invest in their businesses. And now, steep rises in the cost of critical supplies imported from those big three trade partners, prompting Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley to lobby in vain for an exclusion on Canadian potash, minerals used to fertilize one of America's most important farming states. And those farmers have been here before.
I have directed Secretary Perdue to provide $16 billion in assistance to America's farmers and ranchers.
Trump's first administration allocated a total of $28 billion in financial aid to offset the impact of tariffs he waged to try to protect U.S. businesses from foreign competition. Trump's now proposing $400 million in new aid while urging farmers to pivot from exporting, even if it's financially painful.
That was Owen Fairclough reporting. Moving on to Asia, South Korea has defended itself after U.S. President Donald Trump accused it of unfair trade practices and threatened new tariffs. Jack Barton reports from Seoul.
I think there's a lot of consternation here at the moment, and not so much because of the various policies that Donald Trump has been announcing, but the fact that they seem so fickle or changeable, or you never know what will be implemented one day, retracted the next, or where you're going to stand. And everybody wondering, is it going to be like this for the entirety of the next 4 years? Trump, of course, talking about imbalances during that address to Congress. And it is true that last year South Korea had a surplus of more than $55 billion when it comes to trade with the U.S., and that was up by more than 25% from the prior year. But when Trump talks about South Korean tariffs being 4 times higher than U.S. tariffs, according to the Ministry of Trade and Industry here, that is just not true. That's their words in a statement they put out, not true. They say while it is true that the most favorable nation trading status for the U.S., the tariffs are 3.3%. It is technically around 4 times higher for South Korea, but they have a free trade agreement that overrides all of that, so that tariffs are actually under 1%. Last year they were around, on average, 0.79% for goods, U.S. goods, and that comes down each year. So according to the ministry, that's around 0 this year. So they say that it's just absolutely not true. And the feeling is here is probably a negotiating tactic by Trump to put more pressure on South Korea ahead of what is expected to be negotiations over the cost of hosting U.S. troops, roughly 28,500 U.S. troops in South Korea, shipbuilding deals that the U.S. wants to implement, and other trade deals. But the National Security Advisor, Shin Won-sik, is in Washington, and he said that there will be discussions on, the statements that Trump made. They are hoping for a positive outcome, or win-win, as he described it, in discussions with, first of all, his counterpart Mike Waltz, and then with other U.S. officials.
That was Jack Barton in South Korea. Now to Bangkok, Thailand, where the Ba-yi aerobatic team of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force is wowing spectators at a thrilling air show. Chawara Rangjiranan has the story.
There is much excitement in the air here in Don Mueang, Bangkok, as the Ba-yi aerobatics team of the Chinese People's Liberation Army Air Force is set to give a very anticipated performance. The pilots have traveled 3,600 kilometers from China, refueled mid-air, and now are set to impress the spectators with their precision and aerial stunts. The atmosphere here is electric. Both Chinese and Thai aviation enthusiasts and officials have gathered to witness this rare spectacle. For many, it's a once-in-a-decade opportunity to see the Ba-yi team in action.
I'm so happy to witness the show. It's amazing to see how advanced the Chinese People's Liberation Army is.
This is a very, very important beginning of getting to know each other and make the Thai people aware that China has a very great experience and capability of fighter and planes.
This marks the Ba-yi team's return to Thailand after 10 years, and their presence here is more than just about aerobatics. It's a symbol of strong diplomatic and military ties between Thailand and China, as both countries celebrate the 50th anniversary of diplomatic relations this year. The Thai Air Force is also playing a key role in hosting the event, ensuring everything runs smoothly.
This showcases the capabilities of our Air Force both on the ground and in the air. It's an opportunity to strengthen our relationship and collaboration with China.
There is much anticipation for the aerobatics team performance. Not only is it a spectacular air show, but it is a symbol of the strengthening relationship between China and Thailand.
That was Chawara Ranjinaran reporting. After smashing box office records worldwide, Chinese animated film Ne Zha 2 has opened in Singapore. The film's stunning visuals and compelling storyline are redefining the standards of animation. Ahead of its wide release in Singapore, a group of fans and industry insiders were given an exclusive first look. Mira Liu visited to capture all the excitement.
The wait is finally over. Ne Zha 2 is coming to Southeast Asia. The official launch date in Singapore is set for the 6th of March, but a group of lucky fans and invited VIPs from showbiz graced the premiere a few days earlier.
I think it's the best anime in recent years. Compared to other regions, I believe it has surpassed them because the artwork is more detailed and the voice acting is excellent.
So I think one thing is a definite recognition on the improvement or the level of Chinese animation. But the one thing is, it's very rare when there's such a big hype over a movie and you come in not disappointed.
The rebellious deity certainly wreaked havoc on the global film industry. The movie is now the world's highest-grossing animated film of all time. It is only the 7th film to pass the $2 billion mark globally, joining the league of Titanic and Avatar. And the person behind its Southeast Asia release, Joyce Lee, is all smiles.
Frankly speaking, so far, I'm getting more and more confident. And actually, over the last 22 years of my career, I've never seen a response like that. I've never seen anticipation from the audience or the news that it has made on social media. I've not seen something like that. So initially, I was thinking probably, if I'll be very happy if could do like $2 million in Singapore, and that would have break all records for Chinese films in Singapore. But then after today, after everybody's response, I think I'm actually adjusting it. I'm being very optimistic here. So I think 5 million, I'm gunning for that.
That would, of course, be fantastic news for the projector, an independent cinema that specializes in art house films and is committed to creating a space where audience can experience different types of films. With the success of Ne Zha 2 and other Chinese releases, its program curator plans to bring more Chinese content to Singapore.
That was Mira Liu on the screening of Chinese animated film Ne Zha 2 in Singapore. Turning to Europe, artificial intelligence and robotics are revolutionizing the tech sector and taking center stage at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Ken Brown has this report.
The robots aren't coming, they're already here. In 2023, there were already almost 5 million of them working in factories around the world. And if you're to listen to the futurists here at the Mobile World Congress, they're telling us that there'll be 10 billion of them by 2040. An absolutely incredible number. Now, we can see AI taking over in a number of sectors, particularly in large language models like ChatGPT. Rather than typing text into Google to find out whatever they need to know, people are talking into their phones to AI assistants like ChatGPT, like DeepSeek, like Grok, the one that Elon Musk's company just released. And of course, these AI LLMs are much more powerful. They don't just give you search results, they can also create content. So they'll write your speeches, they'll write essays, they can write monologues for TV presenters, for example. So imagine all that AI power in a human-shaped robot in your home. Not only will it be able to fold your underwear, but it'll also be able to teach philosophy. Laundry day is never going to be the same again. Now, here's more what we heard from industry insiders here in Barcelona.
In my opinion, the future vision of robots is like the humanoid can be your friend in your house who can clean your house and washing some clothes. The humanoid can do some elderly care. We believe that in the next 3 to 5 years, the future is belong to robotics.
Artificial intelligence is also helping humans to communicate with each other. Chinese company iFlyTech's wall translates into 9 languages simultaneously.
We can supply over 60 kinds of language translation, such as Chinese, English, Spanish, and so on. With it, you can go anywhere, talk with anybody of the world.
AI is helping us to speak each other's languages, and soon, combined with robotics, the industry is hoping they'll help us do so much more.
That was Ken Brown at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Finally, in Africa, farmers in South Sudan are turning to a rare climate-resistant variety of coffee to increase production. While South Sudan is not widely known for its coffee, this sustainable variety could be a game-changer amid challenging weather patterns and global coffee crisis. Caroline B. tells us more.
In Zara County, western South Sudan, small-scale farmers are rebuilding a once-dormant coffee industry. Farmers are increasingly adopting Excelsa, a coffee variety native to South Sudan and a few other African nations that is more resilient to temperature fluctuations. Catherine Bashiama is hopeful that this variety will help provide for her family.
I planted my coffee and now it's flowering and it's beautiful. The first one has yielded fruit. I'm hoping next year I'll have more and it will help my family and my children. I'll be happy with it.
Excelsa's deep roots and thick leaves enable it to withstand drought and common pests. While the variety has been grown in the country for over a century, its potential is now being recognized after plant variety tests.
Yeah, while we were doing our trials on different coffees in South Sudan, a local farmer said, we have our own coffee in South Sudan and it's called Excelsa. So we started doing trials on it as we feel that this coffee is climate resistant. We think it would be a great thing for South Sudan to explore further.
While neighboring Ethiopia and Uganda have well-established coffee industries, South Sudan is only beginning to revive its own. South Sudan contributes to less than 1% of the global market. While Excelsa could boost local production, experts say it could also help stabilize a global industry affected by climate change.
Main producing countries like Brazil and Vietnam, they're producing less coffee that it was supposed to produce. And that's why the coffee price is getting the highest in the history. And it's the point when Excelsa can be a game changer in the industry, because Excelsa is more adapted to hot and dry weather, and it's not susceptible to pests and disease.
While high transportation costs, security concerns and the risk of destructive fires remain massive challenges for South Sudanese coffee farmers, already their beans have started being packaged for international exports.
That was Caroline B. reporting. Now, recapping the headlines before we go, US President Donald Trump has agreed to exempt automobiles from newly imposed tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico for 1 month. Chinese animated film Ne Zha 2 is hitting cinemas in Singapore after smashing multiple box office records. And artificial intelligence and robotics are taking center stage at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And that's it for this edition of The Top Story, a podcast that brings you world headlines every weekday. For more news in politics, business, sports and culture, you can subscribe to the Beijing Hour, a 1-hour podcast news magazine program. We welcome and appreciate all ratings and reviews. I'm Qi Zhi. Thanks for listening.